This is an important election year. Are you registered to vote? If so, will you vote? Do you know what happens to your vote after you mark your ballot? Who administers the Texas election process? How serious is voter fraud? We'll learn this and more in our conversation with the Texas Secretary of State, Esperanza Hope Andrade. You're watching Access News, hands-on news. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for being with us here today on Access News.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Governor Rick Perry appointed you as Secretary of State in 2008, and the Senate confirmed you, and now you work at the pleasure of the governor. How does one become Secretary of State?
Well, first of all, I'm blessed to be the Secretary of State. It is such an honor and a privilege to be serving the people of Texas. I was a businesswoman for 30 years in San Antonio and got myself quite involved in the community. And as I kept working, whenever the governor needed some assistance, I would always be there to support the effort. I first got asked to serve on the Transportation Commission, and I served there as commissioner for 4.5 years and ended up as their chairwoman. When my term was completed in April of 2008, I thought I was going to take a little break, and before I knew it, the governor called me back and asked me to serve as the Secretary of State, which was awesome.
Did you always want to become the Secretary of State as a child?
I'm not sure that back as a child in my generation I thought about becoming the Secretary of State. I just knew that I always wanted to work hard, do well, and make my family proud of me. Now the great thing is that my hard work makes Texas proud.
And you've been doing a good job so far. Your job serves as the Chief Elections Officer of Texas.
Yes.
And we will discuss in detail about that part of your job. But before we start, can you tell me a little bit about your other responsibilities as Secretary of State?
Yes. One of the most important is that I do serve as Chief Elections Officer. But I also serve as Chief International Protocol Officer, which means that I get to greet all our international guests that visit Texas when the governor is not available. And I also work very closely with all the consul generals that are represented here in Texas. We've got over 90 countries represented. The great news is that every one of those countries wants to do more business with Texas. I also serve as the Border Commerce Coordinator for the governor, so I work closely with our border communities to make sure that there's an efficient movement of goods and people. Our border communities are very, very successful. We have a 1,200-mile border with Mexico, and so we want to make sure that that continues. And then the part that I am really enjoying is that I get to promote Texas throughout the world. Texas has done very well as a state. We were the last ones in the recession. We were the first ones out. We've been named the #1 state for business. We've been named the #1 state for job creation. And so the governor believes that as well as we're doing, that we have to work twice as hard to make sure that we stay in that position. So we take Texas, a delegation usually of communities, and I will go out and we'll promote Texas to make sure that we keep bringing opportunities, which at the end create jobs for our fellow Texans.
Thank you. I know that we see the title Secretary of State, the first thing that comes to mind is Hillary Clinton because she represents us on a federal level. What are the similarities and the differences between the two positions since you do have the same title? I know that you do international relations. Are there other similarities?
Well, first of all, I respect highly the Secretary of State, Secretary Clinton. But my job is very different. She represents the United States. I represent Texas. I don't set policy. My office is more of a ministerial office. And so what I do is I follow the will of the legislature. Okay? And then when I promote Texas, it's more for job opportunities. If there's an issue, of course, I always bring it back to the governor. But my job is more as an ambassador.
Thank you. And now let's talk about your role as the Chief Elections Officer, like we mentioned before. Tell us your role and what you do specifically.
Well, I oversee the election process in Texas. Okay? The great thing about it, okay, is that we work closely with our local election officials. In Texas, you know, we're a big state. I forgot to mention that this state has 26 million people. Okay? And 10 years ago, it had 20 million. So we've grown quite a bit. So in Texas, we have 254 counties. And so as the Chief Elections Officer, my office works closely with each county to make sure that we provide them with all the resources and guidance for holding a good election.
Okay, and how many registered voters are in Texas? You said 254 counties. So how many voters are registered?
We have about 13 million registered voters.
In Texas?
In Texas. And my responsibility as the Chief Elections Officer is to make sure that each registered voter has all the information that they need, all the resources available that they need so that they can go in and cast their vote. There's a couple of things that are very important right now, and that is that for this election, for the November election, okay, the last day to register to vote is October the 9th. So we've got to take action on that. Okay? And they can pick up they can pick up a voter registration form at any library, at any DPS office, at any government office. But conveniently, they can download it. We've got a great website, votetexas.gov, and they can go in there and they can actually get just about any question answered on the election process.
Thank you for sharing. That's really important information. I'm curious about those registered voters. Do you know how many of them are Democrats, Republicans, Independent, other?
See, we don't track that. For us, it's all about individuals in Texas that we want them to have the opportunity to vote. Okay? And you know, what's interesting, I'm very proud of the fact that my office is now in the 21st century when it comes to technology. Okay? So we have a website that's very user-friendly, and the reason I know it's user-friendly is because I can use it. Okay? We also have an app that you can download on your smartphone that you can access at any time.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Okay. And so it's also the size of your phone so that you can easily read it. And then I'm proud to say that I'm on Facebook. Okay? We've got the largest digital flag on Facebook. So you can visit our Facebook page, you can upload your photo, and then send it to your friends and say, look, this is where you can get information on voting, and besides that, I've made my mark on Texas by going there and hopefully voting. And then I'm on Twitter. Actually, we've got quite a bit of followers, a couple of thousand people following us. I never thought I'd have that many followers on Twitter. So I invite you to follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook.
And I will. And make sure you do the same.
Thank you.
You're a public official. How are you registered to vote?
I registered to vote years ago, so I continue to be registered. Once you register, unless you have any changes, you don't have to do anything else.
But how are you registered to vote? Democrat or Republican?
Oh, I'm nonpartisan. See, when the governor asked me to serve as a Secretary of State, okay, I serve in a nonpartisan position because if you were someone running for office, okay, you'd want to be comfortable with the person that's heading this. And so I represent the people of Texas, I represent the state of Texas, so I serve in a nonpartisan position.
I understand that, and I'm sure you get that a lot because you were appointed by Governor Perry, I'm sure people assume that you are partisan, but how do you address those assumptions?
I usually don't have a problem. I do a good job for the state. I want to make sure that we have a respectable process, that we have a credible process, and we have one that Texans feel good about. I'm proud to say that I've been in office now a little over 4 years. This is my second presidential election. And because of the great work that we do with our local county officials, we've had very good elections, ones that Texas can be proud of.
Okay, and now let's talk a little bit about a hot topic right now, which is voter ID. That law was turned down in Washington, D.C. by the district court and said that it was put in place to really reduce voter fraud. That's what we're told. However, what does your office do to increase the confidence, trust of the general public to make sure that there is no voter fraud in the election process? I mean, voter fraud individually or machine or otherwise.
You know, Senate Bill 14 was passed by the legislature during the last session. So it was my job to implement it. Okay? That is the only responsibility that I had in this. We, as a state, have to submit for a pre-clearance from the Department of Justice, okay? And the Department of Justice did not give us pre-clearance. Okay? Our Attorney General then filed the lawsuit, okay? And the courts at the end did not give us the authority to move forward with it. So I don't want to confuse the public, but there is no photo ID required at this time for this election. Okay. We want to make sure that this process is respectable, that this process is fair, that it's accessible. Okay? So if there's on our website, on votetexas.gov, there is a list of documents that you can present if you do not have your voter registration card with you. Most people use their Texas driver's license when they go to the polling place. But if you don't have either or, if you don't have your voter registration card and you did register to vote, and if you don't have your Texas driver's license, then there are a list of documents on our website that you can take. Most of them being a utility bill, a bank statement, something that shows your name and your address.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, but that brings me to a point. What about the cases of individual voter fraud? How many is your office aware of since you've become Secretary of State?
You know, my office, as I mentioned, it's more of an administrative office. We don't have any enforcement authority. So if there is an accusation or a thought that there is voter fraud, then that county will refer it to their district attorney. If it comes to our office, we pass it on to our Attorney General, and they will investigate it. Okay? But my office is not responsible for any investigation, any enforcement. Remember, I'm more responsible for the election process, making sure that our voters, our registered voters, have all the information that they need. And that's what I want to make sure that everyone understands, that there's no excuse for not registering to vote or for not voting, because we provide you with all the resources that you can. The great thing about our website, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, the internet is available 24/7. That's wonderful. Unless internet's down, of course, then we'll have a problem.
And it's my understanding that that's the way most of us are now communicating.
Oh yes, absolutely. I rely on the internet so much.
I used to think it was only the young people or young population, but even us grandmothers, I see us on our phones, on our texting all the time.
Definitely. Before we move on to discuss the election process, I do want to ask you one more question about voter ID. I understand that your office isn't responsible for handling those cases, but what can your office do to promote confidence from the public when it comes to voter fraud?
Once again, we want to make sure that you have all the information. You know, Texas is a large state. As I said, we have a 26 million population, we have 13 million registered voters. And I believe that as long as we've got all the information that we need, that we know where we're going to go vote, that we know when we're going to go vote, and we know how to vote, and that we do our research on the people that are running for office, that people will do the right thing.
Okay, thank you. Now let's talk about the actual voting process. Often we go to vote and we cast our ballot, and then we don't know where that vote goes. So could you guide us step by step through the process? What happens to a single vote after it is cast? Where does it go?
You know, one of the things that we want to assure everyone is that everything is private, okay? So when you go vote, for instance, my hometown is Bexar County, and that's where I vote. I always take advantage of early voting, okay, because it's convenient. You can stop at any polling location. They've got long hours, okay? And so I always do early voting. Remember, early voting is going to start October 22nd and run through November 2nd, okay? So I go early vote. So I vote in Bexar County. My vote stays there. Every county is different. Most counties are now doing electronic voting, okay? But it's their choice. In Texas, we say we empower our local communities to make decisions for their community by local leadership, okay? So I vote in Bexar County, and the vote stays there. When I vote early, those numbers are not released until Election Day. Okay? So on November 6th, on Election Day, think about this. I'm in my office with my staff, okay? And we're all handling calls. We've got a phone bank for people that may have any question, for anything that might be happening at the polling places. And so we're all there to support our local communities, okay? I'm pacing the floor, waiting for 7 o'clock to come for the end of the day, and smiling because hopefully it'll be a good day like the other elections have been, where we don't have any major problems, okay? When 7 o'clock ends, okay, and remember, those people that are at the polling places, if they're in line when the polling place closes at 7 o'clock, they can still vote. But the polling place closes at 7. When that time arrives, that's when my office in Austin starts receiving numbers, and usually we get first the early voting numbers, when we start getting those numbers in our office. And so I promise you, at about 7:01, our numbers start showing up from communities. Okay? So the vote stays in the county, and it's those local county election officials that are reporting the numbers, okay, to our office. And I report those numbers.
Okay, when you say it stays with the county, do you mean, I'm trying to picture it right now. So I go to the booth, I vote, and then it stays.
In their system.
When you say it stays, what do you mean?
In their system, just like
there's no data.
Like
where does the data go?
You know, everyone has a program, and they've got their own equipment that has been authorized by the state. They've tested it, they've made sure it works, and so it stays within their system. In case there's a runoff, in case there's any question, they can verify it. But I will tell you, to give you a little kind of comfort level, is that in Texas, in the past 4 years that I've been in office, we really have not had any major issues. So people do trust the system, and most importantly, the system works. And you have to remember.
But how do you know it works?
It's been proven because it hasn't been, when there's been a runoff, the numbers verify, okay? Or a recount, the numbers have been verified. So the system does work. And we just have to understand that we in the state of Texas and the leadership, we would never do anything. We're proud of our state. You know, there's a thing about Texans wear their pride on their sleeve. We're proud. We'd never want to hurt the reputation of the state. And the most important thing for me is that I have visited with most of those 254 local county officials because we work closely together, okay? And when you meet those people that are hardworking, that have worked hard to put this election together, they're also very proud people, and they'd never do anything that would hurt the system and would hurt the respect of this state.
Earlier you mentioned that each county has the option to choose the machine that they want to use, the system, from various vendors that are approved by the state. I'm sure that probably makes some people in the public a little concerned about the machine and the validity of the machine itself. How can you assure that the machine is working if there are various machines and vendors?
Well, there's a testing procedure, and so it has to go through all the testing criteria. And years ago, when the electronic machine was first introduced, people were a little uncomfortable, but we've come over that, and actually we're quite comfortable now with it. Even our polling place workers that were a little intimidated by the new technology, now they're pros at it, and I don't think anybody would go back.
If the public was curious to see a source code for these machines, could they?
It's private.
Why is it private?
Well, because you want to protect the privacy. Now, I'm not a tech person, so there may be an answer to that I'm not clear on. But just think, you don't want anybody to have the opportunity to get in, to hack it, because at the end of the day, voting is a private issue, and we want to maintain that.
Okay. What can voters do to make sure that their vote stays and is tallied appropriately? What can an individual voter do to just ensure the process?
Just follow the process. I will tell you, when you go in there, okay, and you meet the polling place employees, they will guide you to the machine, give you a ballot, and so forth. Think about it. They're there to assist you. They're going to make sure that this is a positive experience for you. They wanted to make sure it works. And when you walk out of there, I will tell you, when I get that little sticker that says I voted, boy, there's a sense of pride.
Can you explain the canvassing process as it relates to the presidential election? What role does the governor play in that?
Well, the governor signs off at the end of the canvassing, and there's a certain period of time that happens.
What would you like for our voters to remember?
I want them to remember that the last day to register to vote is October the 9th, that early voting will begin October the 22nd and run through November 2nd, and of course, Election Day, November the 6th.
I read on your website that you address special needs voters. Can you tell me, who does that include?
Yes, any voter with special needs, okay, I want them to remember that all our polling places can accommodate any voter with special needs. Remember, you can take someone with you if you need assistance. You can ask any of the polling place workers if you need any assistance. But we have made all our polling places very user-friendly for our voters that may have any special needs.
I know that you may or may not know that deaf people, ASL is their first language, not English, like myself. Can a deaf person bring someone with them to interpret?
Yes. Yes, you can be accompanied by someone that can help you with it.
Wonderful. So now in the last 2 minutes that we have left, what information would you like our viewers make sure that they have before they leave?
Well, the state of Texas is committed to making sure that all our registered voters have all the information that they need so they can go out and cast their vote. Okay? Our website, votetexas.gov. Okay? We can also make sure that we remind you of special dates if you sign up. Okay? And we want you, if you have any questions, to feel free to call us. We have an 800 number, 800-252-VOTE. Okay? But we are set up and we are committed to providing you with all the resources that you need to know about the election process. During this voter education campaign, you'll see me out traveling throughout Texas, visiting with local leadership, with our local election officials, trying to remind you of October 2nd, last day to register to vote, to remind you that early voting will start October 22nd and run through November 2nd, and then of course remind you about Election Day. So remember, your vote does count, okay? And if you vote in Texas, you'll make your mark on Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, for being with us on Access News today. We really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you very much.
You can learn more about the work of the Texas Secretary of State at their website and at our website, accessnews.us, where you may ask questions and share your comments and opinions. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Remember, your vote counts, and America is counting on you. Please vote. One beautiful thing about America is that we, the people, have power. The more we know, the better decisions we make. For Access News, I'm Tamara, and that's Texas.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Created, written, and executive produced by Devorah Ben-Moshe and Ken Hurley. Hosted by Tamara Suter-Okudo. Interpreter for Tamara Suter-Okudo, Jennifer Stoker. Special thanks to Texas School for the Deaf. Funding provided by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Supported by Austin Community Foundation. Production by Austin Community College. Civication Incorporated, www.civication.org.